Father Philip Bochanski, the Executive Director of Courage International, is here to answer our questions. Father Bochanski, thank you so much for joining me. These are really tough issues. Thank you, thank you. They're really, really tough issues. Why is this mission so important to the church? It feels pressing because of cultural shifts, but has this always been a part of the pastoral role of the church?
The church has always had the responsibility to help us to grow into the plan that God has for us, which starts with the fact that we're made in God's image and likeness. That's the the identity that binds us all together. It's the source of our solidarity as a human family, and it's the source of our human dignity. To be created in God's image and likeness means that we're made to be in loving relationships in which we give ourselves away, as the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are always pouring themselves out to one another. Um, so the church, through the scripture and through her perennial teaching, helps us to understand that that's where we come from, and then to see where that's going to lead us in terms of all of our relationships, and in particular, the unique relationship of marriage, in which a man and a woman give their whole self, body and soul, in such a way that they can be a sign of God's love in the world and help God to create new life. And so it's a fundamental reality to who we are as human beings, to who we are as a human family. If we get this wrong, then we're going to get a lot of other things in life wrong as well. So the church always has the need and the responsibility to help us to navigate what we could call Christian anthropology. What does it mean to be a person created in the image of God and called by Christ? And how do we live that out in our day-to-day relationships?
And in understanding and living out this Christian anthropology, can you explain the difference between affirming and accompaniment, that big difference in how we relate to people who identify as gay?
Well, the art of accompaniment is something that Pope Francis has talked about quite a bit in his papacy, and it's not unique to him, but he certainly has brought it to the forefront. And one of the first interviews that he gave as Pope, he said, in terms of this pastoral care, this accompaniment that we give to people, he says, when we encounter the human person, we encounter the mystery of human life. And he says, like God in life, God accompanies persons, and we must accompany them starting from their situation. We must accompany them with mercy. And what that means, I think, is that our accompaniment starts with really taking seriously the story that a person tells us, the road that they've been on up to this point in their life. To accompany someone, I shouldn't tell them what their story is, much less tell them what their problem is, but really listen first in an attitude of love and receptivity. Tell me your story. Tell me what's going on. Tell me who you are. And then, having listened to that, accompaniment means helping them to listen to their own stories and to ask important questions like, are you finding what you're looking for? Are you on the right road? And if a person comes to understand that maybe I've made some wrong turns, or I've made some compromises with what I was originally looking for, well, then we can help them to find the road that God has marked out for them, and walk with them along that road. Now, so accompaniment means meeting people where they are and leading them to where God is calling them to be. Sometimes people want the church's response to be one of acceptance and silence, really, to say, well, you tell me where you are, and I won't say anything at all about whether that's where God is calling you to be. And that's just not a loving thing to do. Cardinal Vincent Nichols, he's the Archbishop of Westminster in London. He said one time to a gathering of people who experience same-sex attraction, said the church loves us all enough to meet us where we are, but the church loves us too much to leave us where we are if where we're supposed to be is somewhere deeper in discipleship, somewhere different than the choices that we're making. The church wants to accompany us along that road of virtue so that we can all grow into the vocation that God has given to us.
And so in becoming a really good listener, it seems that you've been doing that. The mission of Courage International is to provide this community and support for those with same-sex attraction. What's the reaction of those who are part of the ministry or are ministered by the organization?
You're right. It's been my privilege for 12 years now, which is almost half of actually more than half of my time as a priest, to be involved in these pastoral relationships. First in my home archdiocese, and now as in a more leadership role in the apostolate. And the real joy of the pastoral work that we do is just sitting down, whether it's one-on-one with our members or meeting them in our local chapters, the groups that are led by our priest chaplains. And I think much of the time, their first reaction of someone who's coming to talk to me or another one of our chaplains is relief and a feeling of kind of finding a place where they can talk about everything that's going on. And I think courage has always been kind of a landing pad for people in this situation. Sometimes if someone's been living more openly as LGBT, and they tell their friends that they're coming back to church, sometimes they experience rejection or misunderstanding, and at the same time they're not quite sure, is there a place in the church for me? Will people in my parish, will my parish priest understand that although this is my experience of attraction, I'm trying to live a virtuous life, or will they just assume they know everything about me? And so when we're able to welcome them and take them where they are, and let them know there's nothing we can't talk about, there's nothing that's off limits in terms of that discussion that leads to a deeper understanding of self and of God's plan.
And so
It's
in
been
coming
a
back,
very, yeah.
and so in
But just
coming back and
it's
being a
been
part
very
of the
very
church.
grateful to, yeah.
No, please finish.
It's been very gratifying to see their response to that, and to know that that they feel that spiritual fatherhood from our apostolate.
So they're feeling ministered to, but I think there is some confusion on the side of the laity. This month, there are those who celebrate Pride Month. What's the correct Catholic response to that?
Well, I think we have to take a very prudent approach to Pride Month, primarily because people mean so many different things by the various activities and kind of signals of support that are part of this celebration. I think it's important to remember, in its origins, Pride Month grew out of a real effort to promote human dignity and to protect people who identify as gay from unjust discrimination, from really brutal treatment at the hands of the police, especially in places like the Stonewall Inn in New York City in the late 60s. So early Pride demonstrations, I think, were trying to call attention to that reality, which has always been part of the church's teaching as well. One of the paragraphs in the Catechism on this topic talks about the need to always treat people who experience same-sex attraction with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. And a letter from the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith in 1986 went even further. It said it is deplorable that homosexual people are the object of violent malice in speech or in action, that this betrays a lack of respect for human dignity, and that the church's pastors ought to call that out wherever it occurs. So if efforts this month are about promoting the human dignity of our brothers and sisters who are living in this experience, then the church has every reason to echo her teaching once again, make sure that people know this is what the church expects from us, this is what the Lord expects of how we treat our brothers and sisters. Now, celebrations of pride, like parades and other gatherings, oftentimes go far beyond that, and are celebrations of identity, but also, I think, sometimes transgression for the sake of transgressing moral norms. This can be a political thing. This can be a philosophical thing to say, well, we're just going to be free and show everybody that the world's not going to end if we break these kind of expectations or societal norms. And so there can be, not in every place and certainly not by every person, but some of these celebrations can include very adult and sometimes offensive displays of sexuality and that are not appropriate, certainly for children, that may sometimes aren't appropriate for anybody who's trying to maintain their purity of mind and heart. And so I think we have to be very, very careful in terms of showing support for those kind of public demonstrations that we
That
would
don't actually
normally recognize.
speak
Yeah.
to the human dignity of the individual. One last question for you, just on the pressure to use pronouns. I know that's something on the minds of a lot of Catholics. We have style guides coming out of GLAAD and the Human Rights Campaign. How do we answer those questions, and how do we witness to church teaching, but at the same time not go against human dignity?
Well, another comment from the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith is that to be silent about the church's teaching, or to be silent about the truth in an effort to provide pastoral care, is neither caring nor pastoral. Only what is true can ultimately be pastoral. So we have to show respect and sensitivity, and I think especially in kind of passing relationships, if someone says, please call me by this name, I think we can tolerate that as a way to show respect and not to offend another person. I think in a family that's quite different, because especially with parents who chose the name for their child, that can be a very painful thing to call the child by a different name. But people are called all sorts of things, and some names that once were considered masculine names are considered feminine or applied to both.
But in the issue of pronouns?
The pronouns are a different thing, where we're signifying by the pronouns that we use that a person is male or female, and when someone is asking us to use the opposite, the pronoun that applies to the opposite sex, then they're asking us to say something that isn't true, and that's not helpful to them. It's not loving towards them. It's violating our own conscience, and I think it's something that we can't just acquiesce to for the sake of not offending people. If the only way to stay in a relationship is to give in to an ultimatum that violates one's conscience, it's not going to be a very healthy relationship anyway, right? And so I think sometimes we have to have a respectful, gentle but firm conversation to say, I want to love you and respect you, affirm what I can. What you're asking me to do here, whether it's pronouns or attending a same-sex wedding or other things like that, what you're asking me to do is to do something that clearly goes against what I believe is true, and that's something I can't do, even though I love you and want to support you.
That's really, really clarifying. Thank you so much, Father Bochanski, for being with us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.